There are around 12,500 homes on the Whangaparoa Peninsula, and around 35,000 people live here. Almost 2/3 of those homes are owned by the people who live here, with the balance mostly tenanted out to their occupants. Wait a minute, did I say owned? As we all know and experience, for most of our lives we are working hard to buy and be able to pay for our homes. It takes a long time, almost a lifetime for the vast majority of us. At times it is plain dispiriting, that annual financial statement of how much we have paid, but also how much we still owe. And at times like this, all of us feel the effects of interest rates that remain stubbornly high, and we pray for the day when they reduce to something that will return us all to something that feels more affordable and normal. Of course, we all become painfully aware that the projections of what our homes are worth have somewhat levelled off. For many of us, they have begun to come down. Browsing through real estate magazines or windows is sometimes reassuring, but we can't help comparing the relative change in the value of our home with others. And we hope that this asset, which is our home, retains its value relative to the market over time. And as we slowly improve our lifestyle or move to a different area, maybe to accommodate the needs of our family, or a situation where we need to be closer to where our new employment has taken us, that the home we chose to buy and live in was a wise choice and kept our options open over time. For those of us living on the peninsula, there was always a level of risk in this. The further along the Whangaparoa road that we travel out towards Army Bay and Gulf Harbour, the more the reality of the time that it takes to commute anywhere plays a factor in the real estate market. There are, of course, many amazing benefits of living on the peninsula, but in the last 10 years it has become more and more obvious to most of us that the road and other infrastructure realities are playing a part in affecting the value of this asset that we all work so hard to pay for day after week after month after year. Last year, a new reality came and stared us in the face. In July 2023, the country club at Gulf Harbour closed, and the reality is that property values have nosedived since that time. According to one set of One Roof suburb analysis, the following trends have occurred. In the year to May 2024, property prices have changed. Auckland prices have increased by 2%. Hibiscus Coast prices have increased by 1.7%. Gulf Harbour prices have fallen by 0.4%. In the 5 years to May 24, it is interesting to note that property prices in Gulf Harbour increased broadly in line with Hibiscus Coast prices. So what has changed? We are faced with the consequence of a new owner for Gulf Harbour Country Club taking the action of closing the golf course and all other activities of the club. In black and white, this action has already caused a decline in local property prices of at least 2.1%. And remember, this is an average. In examples we were shown by local real estate professionals, the experienced value reduction was much more. It's worth reflecting on this. The average property price in Gulf Harbour is 1.08 million. There are roughly 2,400 properties in the Gulf Harbour Basin, excluding Army Bay and Hobbs Road. So the total value of the housing stock is $2.6 billion. A 2.1% fall in value represents a real loss to the 2,400 property owners of a staggering 54 million in just 12 months. So the Kiwis who made the decision to move to this part of the peninsula and make this the centre of their lives are already playing their part, sharing in this cost of $54 million. The market is speaking very clearly about the closure of the Gulf Harbour Country Club. The problem is, this is only the beginning. We discussed in an earlier YouTube video the fact that there are another 1,400 dwellings allowed under the current zoning to be built in the future in the area. We expect these dwellings will be developed by the landowners as demand grows and should have minimal impact on average prices. However, if Long River was ever granted approval to build thousands of houses on the country club land, we would expect there to be a sharp negative impact on Gulf Harbour as a desirable place to live. We highlighted in our words and images what Gulf Harbour could look like with another 1,400 houses in our previous video. It didn't sound good. But as we have talked with local real estate professionals, we understand that the anticipated impact on house values in Gulf Harbour, if thousands of houses were additionally built on the golf course land, would be between 10 and 20% reduction in house values. Put simply, supply would exceed demand, infrastructure capacity by a factor of at least 2 times. And even before any of the 3,000 houses being built, existing property prices would plummet. So what does 10% represent in terms of lost value to the current homeowners in Gulf Harbour? A mind-blowing $260 million. For those residents who choose to stay anyway, that may not be something that is immediately felt, but for those people who for many understandable reasons would like to move elsewhere for family, work, or just for a change, they will experience a value dilution on their home of over $200,000, something which for most of us is likely to substantially constrain our choices of where else to buy. The more worrying issue is that some property analysts think this number is conservative. What we are facing in Gulf Harbour is the prospect of one property developer trying to make $200 million or maybe more at the expense of the hard-working Kiwis who live here and have invested their life savings and energy in the Kiwi dream of owning a property, losing a mind-boggling $260 million between them. What part of this is in any way, shape or form the Kiwi way? Another way of describing what is unfolding at this end of the peninsula is that several thousand Kiwis are, through the dilution of values in their home, funding a profit of about the same as the value they are losing, and most of those profits are not even staying in New Zealand. Most of them are destined for unseen investors living outside of the country. Even worse is the reality that this flow of dollars from thousands of hard-working Kiwis to a very few speculating investors is not the only consequence of this situation. There will be a heritage for generations of thousands of residents not being able to avail themselves of an environment which anyone would deem critical for a healthy lifestyle. Local access to healthcare, local access to education, adequate emergency services, adequate provision for groceries, a daily grind of traffic congestion which will have no solution even if Penlink had 3 lanes in each direction, adequate green space for sports and outdoor exercise. And most of these issues will not be able to be addressed for generations. Some of them will never ever be able to be addressed. The legacy of this period of planning malaise will have multi-generational consequence. And that consequence will not be constrained just to the people who live next door to the country club. The impact will ripple all along the peninsula as these infrastructure constraints will be felt by everyone. It might not be as severe in Manly, for example, but it will certainly be felt and reflected not only in property values but in day-to-day quality of life. There is some good news in all of this. The good news is that when Gulf Harbour was developed, some thoughtful and wise people in the bowels of the council planning department saw the threat of an overdeveloped community at the end of the peninsula and agreed that the development of Gulf Harbour as proposed would not proceed until the land comprising the Gulf Harbour Country Club was protected as open space in perpetuity by a covenant. In fact, the encumbrance, as it is known, has been wheeled out to stop previous owners of the golf course from developing the land for housing. This legal instrument was deliberately designed in anticipation that from time to time, a property developer would test the resilience of the community and the council and seek to impose their own profit-making cookie-cutter housing plans into this area and cause all of those long-term problems. That legal instrument is the 999-year encumbrance. That's right, it runs out in the year 3005, at which time a property developer can apply for a zone change to build houses on the land. By 3005, it may be perfectly reasonable to build more homes. Maybe we will be flying around in private vehicles by then. Maybe food will be created through precision fermentation in our own gardens. Maybe offices and places of work will be a thing of the past by 3005. But for now, it is 2024. and until 3005, the council's role in this scenario is straightforward and consistent with their design of the covenant. They must uphold the encumbrance relied upon by the 2,400 property owners in Gulf Harbour and the additional 10,000 householders of the peninsula, and indeed the developers of the future allowed for growth, and ensure no resource consent is given to build houses on the golf course land. This must be clear and signal a resolve and intent that dissuades future wannabe rich quick schemers from profiteering at the expense of thousands of people who made thoughtful and reasonable decisions to build their lives here. In preparing for this YouTube video, we filmed several areas of the peninsula as we considered the wider implications of changing values. It is clear that we live in a superb part of this amazing country. Here we are in the middle of winter, and we could have shot these vistas any day of this week. We thought that we would let you take 5 minutes of time to reflect on just how fortunate we all are to live in such an incredible place. The clean beaches, the space to walk and enjoy community with our neighbours, the smooth running of mostly pothole-free roads, the services that we can all avail ourselves of. At the same time, it was hard not to imagine what this peninsula would look like if an additional third of its population was placed at the very end of the road, and the effects on services and movement and general well-being. An additional 12,500 people with 6,000 cars, and all of those things that a photograph does not show in provision and access to healthcare, grocery shops, education choices. So for now, we invite you to enjoy the perspective from the scenes we filmed and maybe take some time to reflect on how important it is to protect and preserve it for the generations that follow us. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the KWGS channel and press the notification bell so that you'll be alerted the next time we upload a new one. Thank you.